This podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing.
Untold Cold Cases starts now.
Hello and welcome to Untold Cold Cases podcast. We're covering different cases that do not get much or any attention. I am your host, Susan Gonzalez. I know I usually talk about cases that do not get much attention or any attention. However, today I wanted to talk about two cases together that I feel are the same person. I've been working on this podcast for a very long time and feel I should share the reasons I believe that the Zodiac killer and the Unabomber are the same individual. Yes, you heard me right. I believe that they are the same person. Ted Kaczynski had the means, motive, and opportunity to commit the crimes by both known serial killers. I have also put together a PowerPoint that shows the comparison of pictures I find interesting and how they connect the two. It also has information regarding postage that both serial killers used, and finally it has a timeline comparing the activity of the two serial killers during their reign of terror, along with other things that I felt linked the two together. Please keep an open mind and review all the information I'm about to provide. The PowerPoint will be found on my Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok page under Untold Cold Cases. And it will also be found on my blog at untoldcoldcases.blogspot.com and at Reddit at Untold Cold Cases. Theodore John Kaczynski, also known as Ted Kaczynski, was born on May 22, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. When Ted was a baby, he did get really sick and was taken to the hospital where they quarantined him. They only allowed his parents to see him twice a week for 2 hours. His mother believes this incident played a part in what shaped him into being the person he was. She thought he felt abandoned, and that is why she made sure he never felt abandoned again. Ted was a normal kid during his elementary school years. He felt he socialized and was even a leader. But after they skipped him a grade, that is when he felt like he did not fit in anymore. He felt like nobody liked him, and he was bullied. In high school, Ted excelled academically. He was always regarded as a walking brain. This is the time that he became interested in mathematics and got involved in a group with like-minded boys that interested in science and math, known as the Briefcase Boys. Of course it was called that because they carried briefcases. In high school, Ted was ahead academically, so he skipped the 11th grade and attended summer school, graduating at 15 years of age. At this time, he received a scholarship and was accepted into Harvard. He started at Harvard at the age of 16, but was not emotionally prepared for the college years. During this time, he was intelligent, but socially reserved. In his second year at Harvard, he participated in a study described by author Alston Chase as a purposely brutalizing psychological experiment that was led by the Harvard psychologist Henry Murray. The participant believes they would write essays detailing their personal beliefs and aspirations. However, these essays were given to an anonymous individual who would confront and belittle them in what Murray called vehement, sweeping, and personally abusive attacks using their own content as ammunition. Electrodes monitored the subject's psychological reactions. These sessions were filled and subjects expressed anger and rage were played back to them over and over again. This experiment lasted 3 years. Later, Kaczynski's lawyers would attribute this to his hostility towards mind control techniques. The belief is it also motivated Kaczynski's criminal activities. Kaczynski graduated with his Bachelor of Arts degree in mathematics from Harvard in 1962. Around this time is when he decided against technology. Then he enrolled in the University of Michigan, where he earned his master's and doctoral degree in mathematics in 1964 and 1967. Michigan was not his first choice, but was the only university to offer him a teaching position and financial aid. This is where he specialized in complex analysis, specifically geometric function theory. He was very smart and had a drive to discover mathematical truth. During his time at Michigan, he experienced intense sexual fantasies of being female, and he at one point wanted to undergo gender transition surgery. He scheduled a meeting with a psychiatrist, but decided not to attend the meeting while in the waiting room. He never gave his reasons for making his appointment. However, he did say that afterwards he felt enraged and considered killing the psychiatrist and other people that he hated. This episode was one of the major turning points in his life. Ted Kaczynski was quoted as saying, "I felt disgusted about what my uncontrolled sexual craving had almost led me to do. I felt humiliated and I violently hated the psychiatrist. Just then, there came a major turning point in my life. Like a phoenix, I burst from the ashes of my despair to a glorious new hope." In 1967, Kaczynski became an acting assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley, where he taught mathematics. By September 1968, Kaczynski was appointed an assistant professor, a sign he was on track for tenure. However, the teaching evaluation showed that he was not well liked by his students. He seemed uncomfortable in teaching, and he's taught straight from a textbook and would never answer any questions. On December 20, 1968, this is the Zodiac's first killing. David Arthur Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were shot to death on Lake Herman with the city limits of Benicia, California. This was the couple's first date, and this place was a popular area for young couples. It is believed the killer pulled up in a car, made them get out of the car, holding them at gunpoint, and shot Faraday in the head and Jensen 5 times as she ran away. She was located 28 feet from the car. On June 30th, 1969, Kaczynski resigned from the University of California, Berkeley without any explanation. In 1970, Professor John W. Addison wrote to Alan Shields, Kaczynski's thesis advisor, that the resignation was quite out of the blue, and noted that Kaczynski seemed almost pathologically shy, had no friends in the department, and the attempts to get him more involved failed. On July 4th, 1969, was the second Zodiac killing. Darlene Elizabeth Farron and Michael Renault Magoo were shot while in the parking lot of the Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. This location is 4 miles away from the Lake Herman Road murder site. The couple sat in the car pulls up, but it immediately drove away, then returned 10 minutes later. The person exited the car, approached the passenger side, carrying a flashlight and a 9mm Luger. The person directed the flashlight in their eyes before shooting them, firing 5 times. The killer then walked away, but returned and shot each victim twice more before leaving. Magoo survived the attack, but Farron dies on the way to the hospital. Magoo described the attacker as 26 to 30 years old, 195 to 200 pounds, and about 5'8", a white male with short, wavy brown hair. A phone call received on July 5, 1969 at around 12:40 a.m. to the Vallejo Police Department reported the murders and claimed responsibility. At this time, the killer took credit for the Lake Herman Road murders as well. This call was made from a phone booth at a gas station on Springs Road in Tulane, about 3/10 of a mile from Farron's home and just a few blocks from the police department. On August 1st, 1969, the first 3 letters from the Zodiac were sent to newspapers. They were the San Francisco Examiner, San Francisco Chronicle, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. The letters took credit for the murders, and each received a cryptic cipher, claiming to be sent by the killer. They were told that if they ciphered the letters, it contained his identity. They were told to publish it on the front page of their papers, or he would cruise around killing people in the night until he killed a dozen people over the weekend. August 7, 1969, the San Francisco Examiner received a letter, where he first refers to himself as the Zodiac. The letter was a response to Chief Stilt's request for more details, to prove he killed Faraday, Jensen, and Farron. The Zodiac included details about the murders that had not yet been released to the public. He also stated that when the police figure out the cipher, they will have him. In this letter, there were some references to episodes of Alfred Hitchcock. On August 8, 1969, Donald and Betty Hardin cracked the cipher codes and produced a statement from the Zodiac describing his enjoyment of killing. The cipher referenced the most dangerous game. He was collecting slaves for his afterlife. It did not provide an identity, but stated he would not give his identity, so he could not be stopped. There were random misspelled words. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac does his 4th killing. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, Pacific Union College students, were stabbed at Lake Berryessa, a small island connected to Twin Oak Ridge. The students were approached by a white man about 5'11", weighing 170 pounds, wearing a black executioner's type hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes, and a bib-like device on his chest that had a white cross circle symbol on it. The students were approached by the man with a gun, believed to be a .45, and the hooded man claimed to be an escaped convict from a jail with two-word name Deer Lodge, Montana, where he killed a guard and stole a car. He needed their car and money to travel to Mexico. He had Shepard tie up Hartnell with pre-cut clothesline the killer brought with him before he tied up Shepard. At this time, he drew a knife and began stabbing them repeatedly. Hartnell survived 6 stab wounds, but Shepard dies from 10 stab wounds. The killer then hiked up to Knoxville Road and drew the cross circle symbol on Hartnell's car with a black felt tip pen and wrote beneath it, Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69, September 27th, 69, 6:30, by knife. The victim Hartnell mentioned the killer referenced Deer Lodge, Montana. Is that a coincidence that Ted Kaczynski ends up living in Montana in a secluded cabin? In my PowerPoint, I've included a side-by-side of the drawing of what they believe the Zodiac may have been wearing and looked like, and a picture of what the Unabomber wore. At 7:40 p.m., the call comes into the Napa County Sheriff's Office from the killer from another payphone and reports the crime. He took credit for the crime and told her it was a double murder. He then left the phone off the hook, which was found to be at Napa Car Wash on Main Street in Napa, California, only a few blocks from the sheriff's office and 27 miles from the crime scene. Detectives did a wet palm print from the telephone, but have never matched it to anyone. I wonder if they have ever thought about trying to match that Ted Kaczynski palm print to the palm print found by the Zodiac killer. On October 11, 1969, Paul Stein, a San Francisco cab driver, picks up a white male at the intersection of Mason and Geary Street in San Francisco, California. This is 1 block away from Union Square. The individual requested to be driven to Washington and Maple Street in Presidio Heights. Stein drove 1 block past Maple to Cherry Street, where the passenger shot him in the head with a 9mm handgun, took his wallet and keys, and tore a section of his shirt. 3 teenagers witnessed the event and phoned the police while the crime was happening. They watched the man wipe down the cab and walk away towards Presidio, 1 block north. 2 blocks from the crime scene, patrol officers responding to the call seen a white man walking east on Jackson Street. The encounter lasted about 5 to 10 seconds. One of the officers estimated the male to be 35 to 45 years old, 5'10", with a crew-style cut, slightly different from the teenager's description to be 25 to 30 years old, with a crew cut, standing about 5'8". The radio dispatcher had alerted officers to look out for a black suspect, so the officers walked past the killer without stopping because of this mix-up. This was the last officially confirmed murder by the Zodiac killer. The 3 teenagers worked with a composite sketch artist to create a sketch of the killer. In my PowerPoint, I've included the side-by-side of the sketch of the Zodiac and a younger version of Ted Kaczynski during that time. October 13, 1969, a letter was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle from the Zodiac, taking credit for his 5th murder, the Stein murder, with a piece of the shirt attached. On October 14, 1969, another letter was received, which included a threat about killing school children on a school bus. The Zodiac stated that he would shoot out the front tire and then kill the children as they bounce out of the bus. A call on October 20, 1969, from someone saying they were the Zodiac, called the Oakland Police Department demanding 2 prominent lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, appear on an AM San Francisco talk show. Belly appeared on the show, and someone claiming to be the Zodiac called in. Belly asked for a less ominous name and got Sam from the caller. He stated he would not reveal himself because he did not want the gas chamber. They arranged to meet outside a shop on Mission Street in Valley City, but nobody called. The call was later traced to a mental institution. On November 8, 1969, the Zodiac sends a card with another cryptogram. The cipher was not solved for 51 years. December 5, 2020, an international team of private citizens solved the cipher denied being the person claiming to be the Zodiac on October 20th, 1969. The Zodiac stated he was not afraid of the gas chamber, as it would get him to paradise sooner. Of course, the letter included misspelled words. On November 9th, 1969, a 7-page letter is sent to the Chronicle by the Zodiac stating that the 2 policemen stopped and actually spoke with him after he shot Stein. The letter included a bomb recipe and a diagram of the explosive. This is the first mention of the bomb by the Zodiac, which is what the Unabomber turns to when he starts killing. It also includes a diagram of the explosive that he will use. It lists contents of bomb-making material. 1 battery-powered clock will run approximately 1 year. 1 photoelectric switch. 1 copper leaf springs. 1 6-volt car battery. 1 flashlight bulb and reflector. 1 mirror. 2 18-inch cardboard tubes, black with shoe polish inside and out. Ingredients that explode. 1 bag of ammonium nitrate fertilizer. 1 gallon of stove oil, and a few bags of gravel on top. Have we ever compared the bombs used by the Unabomber to the diagram and description of the Zodiac bomb? In my PowerPoint, I've included a drawing of a bomb that Zodiac sent in a letter and a picture of one of the Unabomber's bombs. He does inform them that he does not look like the sketch, but only looks that way when he does his thing. He tells them he uses 2 coats of airplane cement to cover his fingerprints on his fingers before the killing. He's left fake clues in the cab for the police so they could have some busy work. On December 20th, 1969, the Zodiac sends another letter stating he will set off a bomb, but trigger is taking time. On April 20th, 1970, the Zodiac sends another cryptogram with a bomb diagram about the school bus bombing. It was a 13-symbol cipher that his name is, which will be revealed when the cipher is solved, and another diagram of a bomb designed to kill children on a school bus. The Zodiac denied responsibility for a recent police station bombing that killed an officer. Again, the comparison of the bomb drawing and the bombs that the Unabomber designed are similar. Also, with the 13-symbol cipher, you can fit the name Ted Kaczynski, which is the name he went by, not his government name. I know it is 13 symbols, and Ted Kaczynski is 12 symbols, but if you put a space where the Zodiac symbol is, it separates the first and the last name. On April 28th, 1970, the Zodiac sends a card, and he writes, "I hope you enjoy yourself when I have my blast." Blast is in all capital letters. The Zodiac also demanded publication of his bomb threats and insisted that the people of San Francisco Bay Area wear Zodiac buttons featuring his chosen symbol, the crossed circle. A letter sent to the Chronicle on June 26, 1970 is where the Zodiac stated he is upset nobody is wearing his Zodiac buttons. He states he shot a man in parked car with a .38, possibly referring to 25-year-old Sergeant Richard Raddick, who was writing a ticket in a squad car a week earlier when an assailant shot him in the head with a .38 caliber pistol through the window. It also contained a map of the San Francisco Bay Area with a cross circle on the peak of Mount Diablo and a code to locate the Zodiac's bomb. He placed a 0, 3, 6, and 9 with instructions that the 0 be set to magnitude N. There was also a 32-letter cipher that the Zodiac claimed would help along with the code to lead to the bomb. The cipher was never decoded and no bomb was ever located. The San Francisco Police Department do not believe the Zodiac was involved. On July 24, 1970, a letter was sent to the Chronicle from the Zodiac complaining that people weren't wearing his cross-circled Zodiac buttons, and he claimed that he was responsible for the failed abduction of a pregnant mother, Kathleen Johns, on March 22, 1970. On July 26, 1970, the Zodiac described torturing his victims and quoted from the Gilbert and Sullivan musical, The Mikita. The letter also explained that the Mount Diablo code concerned geometrical angles known as radians. Now we have not only the Zodiac talking about bombs, drawing bombs, and threatening to detonate bombs, but he is using math lingo to decipher where the bomb is located. On October 27, 1970, the Zodiac sent a Halloween card about killing slaves to have in paradise. On March 13, 1971, a letter from the Zodiac taking credits for murders in Riverside, and that they have only found the easy murders, not the hard murders. On March 22, 1971, letters from the Zodiac claiming they can find victim 12 in Lake Tahoe with pictures of the Sierra Club. This is the last letter received by the Zodiac for 3 years. During all of this, we know that Ted Kaczynski ended up resigning from his job as a professor from the University of California, Berkeley. He was in the area for the first killings and resigned 4 days before the second killings. He was off the radar doing different things during this time. He doesn't buy the remote cabin until 1971 in Lincoln, Montana, and we know he worked odd jobs to receive financial support but never had a regular. We also know that there is an entry in his diary that says he will kill and he will make an effort to hide himself. People's opinions were that he hated women. On January 29, 1974, a letter was received that praised The Exorcist as being the best satirical comedy he has seen. It also included a piece of a verse from the Mikado and the Zodiac symbol. In 1975 is when we know that Kaczynski was starting to perform acts of sabotage, including arson and booby trapping, near his cabin. On April 24, 1978, letters from the Zodiac symbol, Zodiac, is telling everyone he is still here and alive and in control. He mentions Herb Caen, a humorist and journalist. The coincidence is uncanny because the last letter received from the Zodiac was almost a month before the first bombing of the Unabomber. On May 25, 1978, a passerby found a package addressed and stamped in a parking lot of the University of Illinois, Chicago, Circle Campus. The package was returned to the person listed on the return address, Northwestern University professor Buckley Christ, Jr. He did not recognize the package and called campus security. The package exploded upon opening and injured the security officer. We know that Ted was in Chicago during this time to work with his father and brother at a foam rubber factory. Around July-August 1978 is when Ted met a girl at the factory. They went on 3 or 4 dates. He told his brother she kissed him and he was excited. For some reason, the girl decided she was not romantically interested. So then Ted decided to write limericks about her and post them around the work site to humiliate her. His brother asked him to stop, but he wouldn't, so his brother had to fire him. That is when Ted ended up waiting in her car as he contemplated mutilating her, but decided not to. On May 9, 1979, a graduate student at Northwestern University is injured when he opened a box that looked like a present. It had been left in a room used by graduate students. At this time is when law enforcement realizes that the Unabomber is an amateur at building bombs, and he's just learning as he goes, and he'll get better and better as the time goes on. November 15, 1979, American Airlines Flight 444, flying from Chicago to Washington, D.C., fills with smoke after a bomb detonates in the luggage compartment. The plane lands safely, since the bomb did not work as intended. Several passengers suffer from smoke inhalation. Then on June 10, 1980, United Airlines President Percy Woods is injured when he opened a package mailed to him holding a bomb encased in a book called Ice Brothers by Sloan Wilson. He was also leaving false clues in his bombs, such as the initials FC. A note in a bomb reading, "Woo, it works. I told you it would." RV, and using the Eugene O'Neill stamps as postage on his boxes. A bomb wrapped in brown paper and tied with string is discovered in the hallway of a building at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City on October 8, 1981. The bomb is safely detonated without causing injury. The Unabomber had rode a bus to Salt Lake City to plant the bomb. The Unabomber then rode a bus to Salt Lake City, Utah to mail the next bomb on May 5, 1982, which was a bomb sent to the head of the computer science department at Vanderbilt University, which injured his secretary after she opened it in his office. There are no fingerprints or hairs found in the bomb or anywhere in the packaging. Remember me saying that the Zodiac used airplane cement to hide his fingerprints? What did the Unabomber use? Was there airplane cement found in his cabin? What type of items were found that would help him to hide his fingerprints, if not airplane cement? Or some type of chemical, unless he had gloves in his cabin. But in the pictures, I do not see any gloves. On July 2, 1982, a package bomb is left in the break room of Quarry Hall at the University of California, Berkeley, which explodes and injures an engineering professor. On May 5, 1985, another bomb in Quarry Hall at the University of California, Berkeley, injures an engineering student. Now we know that the Unabomber is traveling all over because some of the packages are mailed and some of them are hand-delivered. On June 13, 1985, a suspicious package sent to Boeing Fabrication Division in Washington is safely detonated, but most of the forensic evidence was lost. On November 15, 1985, a University of Michigan psychology professor and his assistant are injured when they opened a package containing a 3-ring binder that had a bomb. The bomber included a letter asking the professor to review the student's master thesis.
December 11th, 1985, a bomb left in the parking lot of a Sacramento computer store kills the store's owner. The Unabomber knows his way around California because of living there prior, so he is familiar with the area. At this time, the Unabomber doesn't bomb for about another year, but there is an incident that supposedly the Zodiac takes credit for during this time. On April 22, 1986, Hoi Ian Sachow and Choi Phao Sali murdered in a car off of I-5 and Highway 99 interchange after pulling over to rest. On May 6, 1986, there's a letter from Zodiac to San Francisco Chronicle stating he killed 2 more people by Sacramento, close to the freeway. Is it a coincidence or not? The May 6, 1986 letter uses the "of the people, by the people, for the people" stamp that was issued March 29, 1985. And both the May 8, 1985 Boeing bomb and the November 15, 1985 University of Michigan use the same postage. The Unabomber is on a break at this time and doesn't send another bomb until 1987. On October 28, 1987, there's a letter sent to the Vallejo Times-Herald letting Herb Caen know he is still around and looking to kill. February 20th, 1987, another bomb left in the parking lot of a Salt Lake City computer store severely injures the son of the store's owner. A store employee sees the man leave the bomb, and that witness account helped a sketch artist create the composite sketch. In my PowerPoint, I've included a side-by-side of a mugshot of Ted Kaczynski and the sketch of the Unabomber. This is when we get the sketch released of the Unabomber. He is wearing a hoodie, wearing sunglasses. We know that in one of the Zodiac killings, he was hiding himself and wearing sunglasses as well over the eye holes. Is this too a coincidence that they both have similarities? Professor James Hill, a chairman of the chemistry department at the University of California, Sacramento, reports graffiti efforts by the Unabomber. He said the initials FC and the word anarchy were painted on several buildings before the 2 1993 Unabomber attacks. He described a shape of a circle, almost like the Zodiac symbol, with a peace sign through it, with the initials FC. If this description is true, what are the chances both serial killers would have these similar symbols, portraying them as the ominous name? If you view my PowerPoint on one of my sites, you will see the 2 drawings and the similarities. I am only stating what was said that the professor said. It was just something I found coincidental.
June 22, 1993, a geneticist at the University of California is injured after opening a package that exploded in his kitchen. June 24, 1993, a prominent computer scientist from Yale University lost several fingers to a mail bomb. December 19, 1994, an advertising executive is killed by a package bomb sent to his New Jersey home. And on April 24, 1995, a mailed bomb kills the president of the California Forestry Association in his Sacramento office. In 1995, The Unabomber mails several letters out to media outlets, outlining his goals and demanding a major newspaper print. His 35,000-word essay, Industrial Society and Its Future. This is dubbed the Unabomber Manifesto by the FBI. He stated he would desist from terrorism if this demand was met. So Janet Reno and the FBI director, Louis Freeh, decided to publish the article in the Penthouse. But the Unabomber stated this was less respectable, and he would reserve the right to plant one and only one bomb intended to kill after it was published by Penthouse, unless the document was published by the Times or the Washington Post. So on September 19, 1995, the manifesto was published by the Washington Post, and this was the downfall for the Unabomber, as his family determined that he was in fact the author of the manifesto. Both the Zodiac and the Unabomber mailed letters to news outlets, and then also the Unabomber mailed bombs. The Unabomber used stamps of Eugene O'Neill when he intended to kill the victims, and the abolitionist Frederick Douglass and early feminist Lucy Stone when he wanted to injure his targets. The Zodiac mainly uses Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 6-cent stamps on letters he sends. There is a significance in the stamps they chose to use. Franklin D. Roosevelt was alive during the time that Eugene O'Neill was popular, and a lot of things went on during their time. I have included in my PowerPoint the significance of each person on the stamps, held for both the Zodiac and the Unabomber. You decide. FBI agents arrested Ted Kaczynski at his cabin on April 3, 1996. At this time, they conducted the search of the cabin, documenting what they found. Think about the journal that was found in the Unabomber's cabin. It was a journal in a secret code you had to decipher in order to know what he was talking about. So we know that the Unabomber was good at making ciphers, which is what the Zodiac killer also did during the time he was killing and sending letters. In my PowerPoint, I've included a copy of the Zodiac cipher and a picture of the journals found in the Unabomber's cabin. The last thing I've included in my PowerPoint is a timeline of the Zodiac killer and the Unabomber, a side-by-side comparison by date. Take a look at it, review the information, and let me know what you think. Lastly, here are some questions I would like to have answered. Is it possible the Zodiac killer and the Unabomber are the same individual? Is everything we know just summed up to being coincidence, and we just say it's not possible? We know the Zodiac's first killed in December 1968 and didn't kill again until July 4, 1969, which is 4 days after Ted Kaczynski just up and resigns from his teaching position at the University of California, Berkeley. Is it possible that neither of them killed anyone at the same time, but remained different individuals? What about the Zodiac killer killing couples in remote locations, and the disdain that Ted Kaczynski had towards women? Is it possible it's just a coincidence that Ted Kaczynski can be placed in the same area during the Zodiac killings and letters, but happened to stop just as the Unabomber starts to find his niche? Is it possible that the Zodiac killer and the Unabomber would use the same stamp in 1985 and 1986, or is that just a coincidence as well? What about the fact that both killers sent letters to newspapers, wanting to take credit using an ominous name they created for themselves to throw everyone off? Some may say, well, the Zodiac didn't know how to word things or spell good. But we know that he did, in fact, know how to spell, because reviewing his letters, some words were misspelled in some, but not in others. And we know that Ted Kaczynski did things to get people to not connect him to any of his criminal activity. So how about when the Zodiac puts coordinates in his letters to try and help police locate a bomb he had placed, and informs them that he used radians to help them locate the bomb? We know that Ted Kaczynski is an extremely intelligent mathematician. Or what about the Zodiac killing with a gun and knife, but then towards the end of his killings he starts talking about bombs, and then the Unabomber starts bombing? The letter sent by the Zodiac on March 13, 1971, taking credit for murders in Riverside, was just a diversion to throw us off, because he wanted us to believe he was also in that location, throwing off the timeline. The Zodiac never took credit before until the police started looking into the ideas because of the journalists. Then what about the letter sent on April 24, 1978, that lets everyone know that the Zodiac is still alive and in control? But after this, we do not get a Zodiac killing, but instead almost a month to the day, the Unabomber delivers his first bomb. Is that another coincidence? Is it a coincidence that the last letter the Zodiac sent in 1971 references a victim in Lake Tahoe, a location that could have been passed through by Ted Kaczynski, since that same year is when he bought the cabin in Lincoln, Montana? We know that Ted Kaczynski traveled all over the place to throw us off his path. He would use different locations to mail his bombs in different locations all over the country to hand deliver his bombs. Is it strange that we have not heard a peep from the Zodiac killer since the Unabomber has been in prison? Not even a letter, even if it was a hoax stating that he is still alive and well. Did the Unabomber have any type of airplane cement or glue in his possession when they went through the cabin, which would keep him from having fingerprints on the bomb and still easy to use his hands? What type of weapons was used in the Quay Lin, Se Chow, and Choi Fao Se Li murders? Did it match the other type of weapons and ammunition used in the Zodiac killings? Did any of the ammunition and guns match any of the weapons and ammunition found at the cabin of Ted Kaczynski? What about the Zodiac ciphers and the journal from the Unabomber being secret codes in order to know what they are writing about? Is it a coincidence both killers use secret coding? The stamps. Were there any other stamps found in the cabin of Ted Kaczynski? Even though years had passed, did he have any leftover stamps to include Franklin D. Roosevelt? So do we go ahead and believe law enforcement and others who just sum it all up to being coincidences, when there are so many coincidences and there are just too many things that just line up? Are we to believe that you cannot disprove the fact that they could be the same person, yet we are supposed to just forget the idea and move on, never asking questions and never solving the Zodiac case? So as you take the time to listen to my podcast and look through my PowerPoint presentation, just take the time to review the information. See if you can debunk that the Zodiac killer and the Unabomber are not the same person. Look at my timeline. See that they do not match up. Like, everything is offset by somebody doing something. It's either the Zodiac or the Unabomber. They're not the same at the same time. That does conclude my podcast for today. If you do have any questions, please email me at untoldcoldcases@gmail.com. You can also look at my PowerPoint presentation to include pictures and detailed information on my blog at untoldcoldcases.blogspot.com or my social media accounts, Untold Cold Cases, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Reddit. Thank you for listening to me and have a great day.